How are you doing today, Ryan?
Doing pretty good. I got my second coming this weekend, so just trying to get some things kind of tidied up before I go on paternity, and have the holidays and everything. So lots to lots of I's to dot and T's to cross.
Oh, nice man. Congratulations.
Thank you, thank you. Yeah, I'm excited for my son to become a brother and see all that happen.
Nice. And
Well, with luck,
do you know if it's another boy or a girl?
Having another boy,
Oh, there you go.
I love this. Like, what a wholesome way to kick off the workshop. We're live on YouTube and welcome everyone to another Mastra workshop. Every week, every Thursday, we come together to learn how to build something with agents or workflows. The other week, we were talking about agent networks. So sometimes it's focused on primitives and concepts. Today, this is a very practical type of workshop. We're joined by Grayson and Ryan from the engineering team at Mastra, and we're going to explore how to build a Slack agent with Mastra. I think one of the coolest things about developing and prototyping with Mastra is that you get access to the studio. So when you're building your agent, you can rapidly prototype, see how things are ticking under the hood. But naturally, at some point, you're going to want to put your agent that is in front of a user. Maybe that's an external user, maybe it's an internal user. I think when you're building an agent and you have to do all these UI considerations, you can go the custom route, but maybe a Slack integration is the perfect way to go. Then you can leverage the agent without having to do a ton of UI work. And in some cases, for some scenarios, having it in Slack is exactly where you want it to be because it's so convenient to access. What do you think, Grayson? When is a good opportunity to interface with your agent in Slack?
Yeah. So I love this conversation. I've been thinking about it and working on it for the last 2, 3 years, right? And the basic idea, it's not specific to Slack, but is we have to make our agents meet our users where they are, right? As long as we keep these AI agents, in code where we're if we're curling routes to like talk to our agents, adoption will be limited, right? You want to talk to the business department leaders that are like, okay, how do we integrate? How do I help my team use this to increase efficiency and productivity? You got to meet them where they are. So if they're already using Slack to communicate or email to communicate or Google Docs or whatever it might be, you've got to take your agents there. And it can be tricky sometimes, but Slack is a very natural one, right? Like the main interface that's come out of these LLMs is a chat interface. And so Slack is a very good chat interface, and so it just kind of plugs right in mentally for people. Other ones might be more challenging, but it's a really natural fit.
Mhm. Welcome, by the way, Grayson, to the workshop. It's amazing to have you. For those of you who haven't encountered Grayson yet, he's a customer engineer at Mastra, which means they're all about helping you integrate Mastra and build reliable and production ready agents. We don't always start with this type of backstory, but I think it's relevant to what we're doing here today. I'm kind of curious, Grayson, what was your background with building agents and Slack integrations before Mastra, and what factored into you joining the team here and now working on this Slack integration feature, which we'll show more in a moment?
Yeah, sure. So I was working with AI agents, not using Mastra, full disclosure. We got a lot of inspiration from Mastra, but for different reasons, we were kind of hand rolling our own agent framework. And one of the reasons was we wanted these really deep integrations, and with our Google Docs and with Slack and what that. So um, building building agents that were helping companies uh, create products like physical products, manufacturing, as well as the financing related to that. So they were doing document ingestion and writing emails. They were researching factories and writing reports, like really, really cool stuff. And so it just reinforced to me how important the kind of the personification of these agents is. And it's kind of a broader discussion, but Slack is one step of that. You know, I'll use an example, right? We wanted to process invoices automatically, right? before an invoice would come in and someone would be like, okay, this invoice is part of this project and they're making this product and I have to scroll through all these pages and take this line item and that line item and essentially just automated that. And the agent, could read the PDF and make all those connections and then update it. And
Mm,
then the final output was an update in Slack, say, hey, got this invoice for ABC Inc. It's processed for, $23, whatever.
I love
Um,
that co-locating the agent with the conversation.
yeah. And so to go back to your question, I worked at Gatsby and Netlify with a lot of the people that are on the Mastra team, and we've always stayed in touch. And I did meet with them a few times while we were building these agents. We met with them as a team, talking about like how they were handling these things because it's kind of like it's greenfield stuff for a lot of teams, right?
Mm.
We're all kind of solving the same problems at the same time right now. Um, and so then the opportunity came up, and it's kind of like the band getting back together in a lot of ways. A lot of great, talented people working here. So I'm excited to be here.
We're stoked to have you. And the reason I love hearing that backstory and surfacing here is that it's amazing to have a practitioner, someone who's like experienced these challenges building agents, applying those learnings to Mastra. And yeah, this Slack integration is a perfect example, right? It makes a ton of sense to co-locate the agent with the conversation. And so, yeah, I think, and Ryan, it's so amazing to have you here as well. How are you doing?
Doing good, thank you. Yeah, happy to be here. This is my first workshop, so pardon me if I'm a little rusty and I'm already trying to get used to the chat, but it's happy to be here.
No, not at all. Absolutely pleasure to have you. And Ryan is also an engineer at Mastra who worked on our Slack integration. I invited them to help answer questions in the chat and chime in whenever possible. Just trying to bring you as much value as possible in this 1 hour session. We're going to segue into some screen sharing. Grayson, I'll ask you to share your screen, and we want to focus on the code and the real examples now that you know who we are and what we're about. Oh, Alex, by the way. I'm your host today, and I work on developer experience at Mastra. Sometimes that's docs or YouTube videos or content. Other times it's workshops like this. All three of us, we have the same goal. We want to help you build a successful agent. And so, yeah, I'll hand it over to yourself, Grayson, to share your screen. And for everyone in the chat, just as a gentle reminder, really, this is a good opportunity to ask your questions directly to Grayson and Ryan about Mastra, about building Slack integrations. The really beautiful thing about being part of this chat, as opposed to just watching a YouTube video, for example, or reading a post, is that it is interactive. We can help you with your questions and maybe even steer to some extent the workshop based on what you find interesting and what things naturally arise. So I'll keep an eye out for your questions while Grayson shows us the first example.
Yeah, definitely. And Ryan's being super humble because I built the POC for this. I built it at the last place I was, and now I built the POC to be like, what would this feel like for a user natively? What would it feel like if we did it in Master Cloud? And came up with a plan, and Ryan got all into the plumbing and rocked what I'm about to show you. So
That's
shout out to
sick.
Ryan on that. So,
So how about we take a quick look at the master version of adding a
yeah,
Slack integration. And then once we have a sense, like a visual example of what this looks like, so people watching understand, we can actually segue into showing you how you might build it yourself from scratch. And then you can decide which option is best for you.
for sure. So yeah, option number one would be here in Master Cloud. So you haven't used Master Cloud. This is Master Cloud. It's very similar to your local development, but environment that you get from Mastra, but even a little more souped up with some cool things. So I'm just here looking at my agent and then behind a feature flag. So actually, Alex, I'll find the form link to opt into this feature flag for anyone that's interested in trying this out because this is in alpha beta territory. So if you want to try it out, we're happy to give you access and help find bugs and improvements and things. So because of that flag, I can see this integrations tab, and it offers for me to connect my weather agent to Slack. So the weather agent, if you worked with Mastra, you probably know Mr. Weather Agent, right? You just ask for weather somewhere and he gives a nice report. But what if we've got Sally in accounting who doesn't know how to get to the Mastra Cloud uh, site, doesn't have a login, whatever, and we want to expose this weather agent to everyone in the company, and everyone has a Slack account, but not everyone has a Mastra Cloud account, right? So we can add it to Slack. So first, you're going to see this Mastra Cloud app. This is like a parent app because we create it dynamically via manifest with the agent information, which is stored in Mastra. So I'm going to allow this. And then next, you're going to see the actual weather agent itself. So the Mastra Cloud one you saw before doesn't actually like get installed in your workspace. It just gets the permissions to install this app. So I'm going to install weather agent. Cool. It is connected. And now we've got a couple links. This takes you to the Slack, the Slack API UI for your Slack account where you can manage some things, which I'll show you later. But you can also go straight to DMing this agent right here. So I can say, what's the weather in New Orleans? And it will respond. We'll go into some detail about like what's happening under the hood, some improvements that you can do, some improvements that we're going to do uh, to make this feel really, really good. Because I'll call out one of the first problems I have with this right now is if you notice that took a little while, right? So under the hood, we're calling generate. So it's going to wait until the message is ready. You don't get a whole lot of transparency as to what's going on, but we're gonna put some improvements out there, and I'll talk about that a little bit later. But there we go. We've got that. I could also tag this agent in a channel, get the same kind of uh, behavior and functionality as well. So that's like the one-click Master Cloud magic way of doing it, which is pretty nice because I'll show you how to do it in code next, Alex, if we want to segue into that. We can do that. But the cool thing about Mastra is, well, one of the cool things about Mastra is, this is just open source. It's a full framework, so many APIs that you can dig into. So you can do this yourself with Mastra. You can do, we're going to be looking at Teams integrations. We're going to be looking, there's some WhatsApp examples. They're all going to follow a very similar pattern, which is expose to the user somehow, trigger from a user when the user gives an input, we want to trigger Mastra. That's it. And with webhooks, that can come from so many places.
This is such a good visual demo. Now we know exactly what we're all talking about. It's nice that you can add it with one click in Master Cloud. I'm so excited to see how I might build something like this from scratch because there's going to be some really interesting principles and demos there. Before we segue into that, just because we have Ryan who helped build that feature in cloud, I'm kind of curious, Ryan, what were like some of the challenges implementing that? Like, what are some things that we might cover some of it with the code demos, but I'm curious from your perspective, what things are interesting or challenging about implementing a Slack integration like that you should consider if you want to do like a really reliable solution?
Definitely. Yeah. Thank you. It's the kind of quick one click, one agent, one stream. It's pretty simple to get up and running, and there's really not too much complexity around there. But then when you think about all of the other benefits that you can have with Mastra and all that Mastra has to offer, like with workflows and multiple agents and observability, you want to have all of that at your exposure as well and disposal. So being able to leverage the one-click integration to be able to have those threads automatically uh, pick up the context from that stream and not need to wire that in yourself, and having all of those interactions with images and different types of multimedia, baking that in, and as well as presenting your tool calls in some sort of structured output, some sort of block kit,
Oh
or
yeah.
being able to render out interesting artifacts from your agents that's maybe more catered to your use case. So you can focus on delivering that UI and not necessarily wiring in how do I do OAuth and manage refresh tokens, and you can leave that to the framework.
Khalil had a great question that I want to repeat for people watching on the recording. Is it possible to stream those messages into Slack? We saw previously it kind of generated them right in one go with ChatGPT and things like that. We see those text tokens trickle in. Is it possible to accomplish something like that with Slack? And if not, what is the best we can do within the constraints of their API?
Yeah,
It
and this is love for to take this real quickly. a lot of exploration kind of needs to be done in this. Like we've seen a couple of different you can use emojis or you can say, hey, I'm starting to stream, kind of create like a loading spinner experience. And then you can try to go the further down the road and maybe every 10 tokens you output the results or every 20 to like so you kind of chunk it. So it's not necessarily a stream, but you can kind of get to it through a little bit of iteration.
Khalil has a cool idea. I don't think it's possible, but I hope Slack evolved their UI to like better accommodate these agentic use cases as they get more popular, right? Khalil's idea is that you could maybe show like a typing indicator. That's quite cool because that feels like a native pattern in Slack. If your agent was typing, that feels perfect.
Yeah, or even like, oh, so the agents read it, and now they're actually they're thinking about it, and now they're actually delivering on the stream. So that's the typing. So you have those different kind of read receipts that people are used to.
Yeah, and I do have a branch on this like POC repo that I'm using where I do use Slack streaming feature, and it's definitely smoother, right? Like I don't know how working of a state it's in because I kind of paused to get ready for the workshop the other day, but um yeah, I mean it was showing like, hey, calling this agent, starting this agent, calling this tool, responding, and then a much more natural feeling and a quicker feeling, right? A good real life example is that invoice agent that I talked about. It might take 2 minutes. We had like some very large PDFs. If you've done any stuff with large PDFs with agents, it can take a while. They had a lot of tools. It was lots of writing to external databases, which took time. Anyways, 2 to 3 minutes was not unreasonable, which you wouldn't want to wait 2 or 3 minutes for someone to respond to your Slack message. At least
Mm-mm.
not an agent. So,
If you take more than 3 minutes to respond to me on Slack, Grayson, I'm gonna complain in the future.
yeah.
I have also seen though, like the use cases for myself, like we have debug agents now in our own cloud where in the past, somebody would ask me, hey, can you go and debug this project? And, you're going to wait probably 30 minutes, maybe an hour for me to get back to you. Maybe I'm like, hey, I'll look into this or I'll give you some eyeballs, but I'm not going to give you an actual response for an hour or two. But now with the cloud debug agent, I can send off 10 different debuggers at a single time. And then, they report back to me when they're ready. And I just get a notification in Slack and it's like, oh, okay, here's your report. And so for those kind of use cases, waiting a little bit longer, as long as I get that indication that work's being done, it doesn't really matter to me. I'm not going to sit there and wait for the guy to debug for me. I'll just get the notification at the end of the day.
I'm really excited to get into the code examples and look at how we can implement something like this from scratch. I really appreciate this discussion around the user interface and the UX and things like that. And what you're saying, Ryan, it almost reminds me of like, and it connects to what you said, Grayson, about personifying agents. These are like teammates in Slack almost, it sounds like at that point. And that's really powerful stuff. Let's take a look at how we can bring that to life ourselves from scratch.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally agree. The personification, in my experience, agents get names. What's the first thing, Ryan, when Ryan's sons get born this weekend, I assume he might already have a name, right? Like, and he's not even here yet, right? Like that's a very natural thing to do with agents as well. Like, give them a name. We generated headshots, so we'd go on Midjourney and describe the role, and we would and give the name and just like take whatever came back and like a LinkedIn style headshot, and those would get attached. They get a email address, all that stuff, like full on. And there was even cases of if you onboarded a new employee and you didn't tell them that, hey, like Billy is a bot, like it might take them a little while to realize because everything's there. It's like, wow, this guy's really formal. But yeah, I
That's so
mean,
funny.
you know, uh,
This guy's
you
always
could have,
telling me I'm absolutely right. I love him.
yeah, yeah. But there's nothing super obvious if you give them all this stuff that a regular employee has. I mean, you could give them a phone number, like you could do all kinds of crazy stuff if you think about it. So, all right, well, let's get into code. So Ryan made a good point earlier. The main challenge of building what I just showed you, you're not going to have, right? The main challenges we had were with, doing the OAuth and the tokens, and like we're tracking who has which app installed, in our own database so that we can manage them and match the right app to the right agent. You don't have to do any of that to get this basic functionality. You can do it. Well, you'll do like half of it through the Slack UI, and then you'll, do this code that I'm going to show. So I'm going to start with I think I'm going to start with the Slack UI, just to show you. So these are the apps. I'm going to go to create a new app from scratch. I'm going to say workshop agent. I'm going to put it in this test Slack here. Okay. Now there is very little else that you need to do. What you're going to mainly focus on is the OAuth and permissions. So we're going to give it a redirect, or actually, we don't even need a redirect URL. We're going to give it some scopes. So we're going to allow it to read messages, write messages, join channels, do all of those things. And we're going to set up some webhooks. Now I'm going to switch back to the code, and I'll show you kind of like the little UI I built around this. Let's see.
Do you mind zooming in a couple notches?
Sure. How's that?
Nice.
So I just ran a dev command. Give you a little background on the project structure here. It's a Next.js app with a Mastra app kind of inside of it. So your architecture may be different. The point of the Next.js app is the front end, but also to handle the API routes. So you may have some other server that's going to do these API routes that you're going to need. You could actually even do it just with Mastra. Mastra has a really cool API called Register API Route that's perfect for things like this, where you don't want to spin up a whole node server somewhere else or something to handle this service. So you could do this entirely with Mastra if you wanted to. So let's look at what we've got here. I'm, of course, going to have my local Mastra instance. So you can see I've got these three kind of text processing agents. And then here I've got my uh, little beautiful custom demo UI, right? So this is kind of akin to what we show in Mastra Cloud, but that you don't need to build this yourself. It's really just for me to illustrate what's happening behind the scenes. So I'm going to pick one of these agents. We'll go with the reverse agent, and I'm going to install it to Slack. So this is going to do what the Master Cloud button does. The reason I want to do this is because it's going to generate the agent in the Slack API, and we'll be able to look at its permissions and all the things that you would need when you create your agent from scratch. So same steps as before. Oh, good point. Because I'm running this locally, I need to run my ngrok. So, ngrok is just going to expose my Next.js server out to the world. So you don't need to do that for
One
yours.
of the fundamentals of working with webhooks and services.
Yes. Okay, so we're going to install this reverse agent to my Mastronaut workspace. Okay, it's connected. I have a little pseudo database here. It's a JSON file, full disclosure, to track, make this stuff look nice, but not necessary for just linking a Slack agent with Mastra. So let's go back here. I now created the reverse agent, and let's look at what it created. It's cool. It brought in from Mastra, like you want to put in, I think you want to put in a description, you want to put in the name. We talked about the headshots. Like here, you could do your color, you could do a headshot for your agent. All that can be done here. This is like a future improvement we want to add for the Mastra Cloud environment as well, is allowing you to add this kind of stuff for your agents. That way it gets brought over. Now let's go to our permissions here. So I do have this redirect URL for the OAuth, but you do not need that. Um, this is really what you want, which is these scopes. So we're gonna let it know when it's been mentioned. It can look at the channel history, it can write chats, and it can look at message history. There's a whole bunch of other scopes that maybe you want to add here. Kind of up to you, but these are probably like the bare minimum kind of thing. Let's see. Doo-doo. I feel like let's see, events. Yes. So this is the other place that you're going to want to go. And this is where we're going to go back into Mastra World, is this events URL. And it does respond. I just keep turning it off. So we want this URL to be hit like every time there's a Slack event. And then we'll handle that. So I'll go back into the code. But as far as if you were creating this agent from scratch, come in here, go to your Slack apps, create it, give it those permissions, and then you'll need some kind of endpoint. And we'll talk about what this endpoint needs to do. There's more that you can do here. I actually just started investigating this new option. Let's see. I'm not going to turn it on right now, but I think we will. I think I will recommend turning this on. It basically just gives the agent a little more of a natural feel in Slack. So when we go to ChatGPT, we've got our history. Um, when I DM somebody, they don't really respond in a thread to me. But if you saw earlier, the agent responded in a thread to my DM. Doesn't feel totally normal. So this kind of changes the Slack UI a little bit. But it's brand new, still testing it out. But overall, seemed like a really good set of kind of default behavior to improve the agent. So, um,
This might
cool.
be totally
Yeah.
not related. I'm just totally curious now. What's the workflow steps feature? Is that anything to do with like agentic workflows?
Let's see. I'm not sure.
No, no, maybe let's
Maybe.
not digress. I just know we have master workflows and I see Slack workflow steps and I got excited.
I mean, there's a lot. Like Slack has a pretty deep. They got like slash commands. This is a real one that we haven't dug into, but there are. I know I have colleagues here that do have some slash commands. Ryan, I think maybe is the debug a slash command or is that just a tag?
That one's just a tag, but I
Okay.
think like slash commands will be great in the future for being able to execute workflows that aren't
Yeah.
necessarily agents, but if you have a workflow in your Mastra server, then that can just be exposed automatically as a slash command.
Yes. Yeah. So there's a lot of cool ideas that you could do here. All right. So where was our event subscriptions? There we go. Okay. So this is the endpoint. And notice it's hitting my ngrok slash API slash Slack slash events. So let's go into the code. I have my API right here. Um, Here's my Slack one. Most of these you can ignore, right? Because I'm trying to demo this UI. So I had to build some other routes as well, right? Where I get lists of apps. I have to do OAuth to be able to do the button. Same with the user auth. You can ignore all those. But events here, this is like the meat of what's going on. So let's get in here. All right, we are going to have like you can do some verification things. You want to make sure what's hitting this uh, API, your API is from Slack and is from your Slack. So there's some environment variables. I've got them in the example. I think you'll pretty much need these too, the client ID and the client secret. But
Just
I'll,
to
I'll
expand on those a little bit,
Mhm.
Grayson, the secret there that where you're verifying the signature from Slack, um, we allow you to call from Slack agent now, but your master server, we have authentication enabled. So you're actually able to use and leverage your signatures from Slack and whoever is using that that or calling that. So maybe you have Grayson and Ryan, but Alex doesn't have access to this specific agent. In Master Cloud, you can use our auth solution in order to block access to Alex and his specific Slack user, but allow Ryan and Grayson or myself and Grayson.
I'm only feeling a little bit excluded, but it's okay.
Yeah.
Uh, cool. So again, some of this is demo code you don't really need to worry about, but the main th part is here, right? We're gonna this verify Slack request. This comes from Slack's library. It's not ours, and we're gonna verify that this is coming from uh, the right place. Okay, now this is where like the magic happens, and this is where you can do all kinds of cool things. This is just the kind of the bare minimum of what happens. So we get the event, right? Everything's valid. It's come in. Someone has tagged your agent on Slack. It's valid, comes through, and now we're here. Um, you can ignore. We might want to ignore like when someone edits a message. And there's all kinds of things that we could kind of do here. Things can get out of hand, and so you might be tweaking some logic in here. What I mean by that is if you've ever told an agent to shut up because it just won't stop responding to you, like you can trigger some things in a thread where like every time somebody's talking in a thread, imagine there's 4 or 5 people. And the agent's just like, yes, yes, this, that, like, you can have some ways to silence it and follow your own kind of rules. Um, so we're gonna ignore a couple things. Um, but if it gets a message or if it gets mentioned, we're going to start our message. So um, and I'll log some of these so we can see what it looks like. But it's going to get the raw message from the user. It's going to get the user ID from Slack. And we're going to, if you've ever worked with Slack's API, like if you tag at Grayson in Slack, the user ID is not Grayson, right? It's a unique identifier, and so that's what actually the API sees is this unique ID. It doesn't see my human readable name, right? So here's an example. We don't want, at least in this case, I'm asking the bot to do text transformations, and I don't want this user ID in there, and so I can remove this. There's other things we could do about, when an agent could tag a user back or things like that. We built some tools for how an agent could do that previously. So it's cleaned up the message, and now this is where we're going to send to agent. So we'll dive into this. Um, we're we've got our these are now we're hitting like Mastra, right? This is where we hand off from Slack events to passing it to Mastra because Slack at this point doesn't care. It's like, hey, you told me to send you an event when this happened, and I did. Like, what do what you want to do. Um, so first, we're going to send it to our agent, and we're going to hit our Mastra API URL. This is where it might be different for you, but I've got it nested here. So I'm going to hit that, and I'm going to call generate. This is pretty. This is like a standard Mastra pattern. For this one, this is my local one, but in cloud, it's going to be cloud, or in your other environments, it'll be whatever that environment is. But it's going to get my agent name and call generate on that agent. It's going to pass in the messages. It's going to have our memory set up, um, all of that. So this is where people are asking about streaming. This is one place where we might touch on that. I'll switch branches at some point and I'll look and see what actually changed here. But it's going to get the response and return it. Okay. So send to agent has now returned the generate response from the agent, and we've got that response here now. So now we're back in the webhook handler, and we're going to now we got to go back to Slack. So Slack said, hey, something happened. Agent made the message, and now we're saying, hey, Slack, back to you. Here's what the message is. So this is just a regular Slack client. You'll install that. And by the way, this repo is public. We'll share a link. Feel free to dig through it. And then I'm going to be working on a guide that is more narrow and ignores all this auth stuff and all the kind of like cloud adjacent stuff that you won't need to worry about. So we'll put together a very simple guide written down as well. But so now we're going to call this Slack API and just post the message back. Slack uses this kind of unique ID called thread TS. I think it just stands for thread timestamp. Um, but it's how it knows, where the last message was and how to respond to it. So um, it's going to find the channel. It's going to get the text. The channel ID, by the way, just comes through with the event. So it already knows what channel the message happened in. Same with the thread, and it's going to respond. Um, that is pretty much it. But let's test out this reverse agent in this local Slack. So I've got my reverse agent here, and then we can look at the logs. All right, so let's hop over here and watch it come through. So we immediately got hit from the events, and it's doing some lookup stuff. There we go. It cleaned up the message. So it took away that user ID. It says hello world. Here's our agent response. Response sent to Slack. And there it is. It's back in there. Do we want to pause for questions here, or do we want to go straight into like the prototype of what streaming would look like?
I'm pretty stoked to see the streaming prototype. What do you
Okay,
think, Ryan?
Same. Yeah, I think that would be good to show.
cool. All
And in
right,
the
don't hold.
meantime, if anyone watching has any questions, feel free to ask them in the chat and we'll circle back to them towards the end.
Cool. Don't hold it against me if this breaks a little bit, but it was working pretty well the other day. All right, let's look at the code first, and then we'll do the demo. So let's go. Everything else is the same up until this. This in this event handler, we're still verifying the signature, all that stuff, right? But then we're going to do this stream to Slack function. So this is my function. Oh no, I'm sorry. This is a actual Slack function called stream to Slack,
Hmm.
and where there was more to this. Let me find it. Oh, I'm sorry. I don't, that is not. This is mine. Sorry, this is mine. This is not a Slack API function, but there is one, which we'll see under the hood. So this was send to agent. Now it's stream to Slack. We probably rename that. But here it is. It takes a lot more um, parameters, and we're gonna start. Well, maybe I'll pause. Maybe I will do the demo so you can see what this code is going to do. But
I like that.
if you've used Mastra before, like there's Mastra workflows, there's tools, um, there's a lot of things that an agent that Mastra gives you. But when we do it this way, we don't really see any of that. So let me try another one here, and let's see what happens. All right. So we've got a little thinking emoji. It said calling tool, the reverse tool, responding, and then we get our response. So still a lot of polish that we can add there, but that was immediately better. It responded to the thread instantly and gave me some kind of feedback. And when we dive into this, like, none of that's hard coded, right? Like I'm not saying calling this tool, calling that tool, on step one or step two. It's totally dynamic. So we're gonna do some stuff for these little fancy animations. Like that's not too important. But in this update Slack message, we've got our workflow step, right? This workflow step, we can tell if it's thinking or if it's calling a tool or if it's responding. Let me see here. Show workflow status. Somewhere in here, I think we pull, the actual workflow. So I'm just trying to see where it's updated. Okay. Yeah, there's our update interval. So it's going to update every second and check the I think it does it off resource. I'm not sure off the top of my head. I need to dig into this more. But it's dynamic, right? It's going to pull what's actually happening in your workflow and display that. So you can see here, um, I've just got like a map of emojis and then calling tool, workflow step, tool name. Um, and then we're kind of accumulating this text. I did also do a test with this, but I backed it out because I wanted wanted to get ready for the workshop, where it actually streams the response. So, it does the updates of the status, but then when it gets to this responding step, just like we're used to in ChatGPT, do token, 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 right? It was doing that in Slack, which felt honestly, I backed it out also because it felt weird. It suddenly I left the Slack paradigm, which is you know, I don't see what Alex is writing to me as he's writing it. I may see that he is writing, but I don't see him type word for word. So just mentally, I was like, "Ooh, that doesn't feel like Slack anymore." So I backed it out. But I do think it's possible. So if you want to try that out, I'll have this branches up there, and I'll add that back in or document it or something. But um, yeah, that's it. So you can imagine the kinds of like bespoke experience you could build with your agents and your Slack workspace. I'm using these emojis. Um, you know, uh, there's a lot of like animated emojis that people have custom in Slack that you could use. It'd be tough for us to do that like abstract, like generically from cloud because not everyone has the same emojis. But if you're building this like scope to your workspace and you're not using the Mastra Cloud way, like you could customize all kinds of things and um, make it look nice, make it feel right. You could make sure, in this step, and I'll go back because this one's a little easier to read. Um, in this step, you could add all kinds of processing or checks or whatever of like I want to always tag so and so if it's this channel, right? I want to always include a link to a Google Doc from this place or whatever. It's just JavaScript, so you can write whatever code you want in here to customize an agent. And Mastra does not get in the way, but there's so much Mastra stuff under the hood that you could expose in your message as well. So you could make a link to the trace or all kinds of cool things. So um, we got 10 minutes left. I'm talking a lot. I'll stop. Hopefully that illustrated what you can do, and happy to answer any questions.
Thanks, Grayson. That's a fantastic demo, and I'm sure people will be stoked to have access to the source code. We can pop a link to that in the YouTube description, where you can also play this stream back if you want to zoom into any of the finer details.
Yeah. Let's see. I saw a question from Zachary. Could you configure keywords in messages? Yes, but let me check something. So, event subscriptions. You, I think you could do that through the Slack UI. Like, I think there's an event type or some other kind of interactivity or shortcuts. There's some other things that you could do. Just like, when you're in Slack and you can set your own notification preferences. I'm pretty sure that you can do that as well for the bot, right? Like I often set it where if someone tags me directly, notify me, of course, but I might say just if someone says my name. So just if the word Grayson appears in a channel, I want to be notified. I believe you can do the same thing for your agent, but it wouldn't have to be their name. It could be, you know, did someone say invoice, like, and the bot pops in.
I'm interested what this would look like if you were maybe not using Slack. For example, I know a lot of people use Teams, for example, or maybe WhatsApp for their business. Is it, do some of these concepts translate or do they require a fundamentally different approach?
I would say they translate, right? Essentially, it's like, you have some service and you want the service to it emits events, right? And you may set rules in the service of when to emit those events, whatever. So whether it's WhatsApp or whatever, or Slack or stuff in Google or databases or another API, doesn't really matter. And then you have like the listener, which is going to be Mastra with some kind of API, um, you know, like a listener webhook, right? That you'll give to the service for when it emits. And um, when when an event hits, custom logic, right? You may want to do some cool things. Maybe it's not the right type of event, you ignore, whatever. And then call Mastra with messages and other options, memory, resources. Then you get Mastra's response. Do whatever, right? You may go back to the service that emitted it. You may go to some other service, all kinds of things. But this basic pattern be the same for lots of different services. Slack just being one of them.
Thank you. What do you reckon, Ryan? Are there any like common internal workflows you can imagine being Slack agents or Slack/ commands?
Yeah, I think like there's a lot of just kind of like reporting duties that I have to do daily, or just like kind of things that I need to check up on, or dashboards, analytics that I need to look at. And it's just a very repetitive process where I'm going and I'm just checking for any discrepancies or any big spikes or anything like that. And having reports or something that could do that for me and just send the whole consolidated list. I could ask it for it every morning, because a lot of the time I get sidetracked and don't look at those reports until maybe it's too late and I get a
Mm.
customer call about something being down. Um, so just anything that's really a very repetitive task that I can systematize, and try to have it do for me and offload that from my daily tasks.
Are there any specific considerations when building a agent for Slack? For example, what model you use or security considerations, maybe anything to do with the user experience or the functionality of the agent that is specific to Slack or a team communication environment.
Yeah, that's a good question. The model, I haven't really given that too much. I really do feel like that's kind of use case specific. If you're doing something creative, I like to use ChatGPT. Something more technical, I use something like Claude, and that's just kind of my own um, preferences and kind of the models that I used to like to use. But in Slack specifically, I can't say that one model would be better than the other. I think it's mainly use case based.
Yeah, sorry, I want to share one more thing that I kind of glossed over, right? It was like how is that workflow step being updated when we stream? So remember I pointed out earlier we had the slash generate where we're hitting our Mastra um, API. So down here in the same streaming function, again, this code is up on GitHub. There's a branch called feat stream. You check it out. We're now hitting the stream endpoint, right? Then we get our response, and then we're going to process the stream. So scroll past. Right, we're going to process the stream and do all this cool logging. And then we've got this is like in Mastra internals now, all the workflows, all that stuff. Somebody asked, are we using workflows? This agent doesn't have a workflow, but Mastra uses workflows under the hood to handle this. So we're just checking for different um, Mastra internal types, right? Like whether it's a tool call, and then I'm making it look nice, right? Display the tool name so that it looks right, and then I'm just updating this workflow step, and that's what gets passed back to the update. And this is just running every second. It's checking this. So I kind of glossed over the fact of how we are hitting the stream endpoint for Mastra as well. We're using the Slack streaming um, feature, but we're using the Mastra streaming feature as well. How would context be handled? Um, from Khalil, how would context be handled? Well, I mean, kind of the same way as without Slack. Like Slack shouldn't really be in the way at all there. Like it should just be tied to the resource, right? The Damasha resource.
That is quite an interesting question, by the way,
Yeah.
because I think your answer is that anything that goes through the Slack agent will be registered in Master's memory, right? So it'll have some context of the recent conversation. But I could totally imagine the Slack agent benefiting from context within the Slack organization, right? Maybe the message happened in the same channel, but in a separate thread or something like that. I wonder if there is a good way to access that and give your agent some contextual knowledge of what's going on.
Yeah, and they
Could even
have
be
this.
information like who else is in the org and their role and stuff like that. I feel like a Slack agent could benefit a lot from that kind of environmental context.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Let me share really quick what this looks like. So I've got my reverse agent. If I turn this on, I'm now back in this Slack UI and I'm turning on this agent or assistant um, feature, right? So now, let's see, I need to refresh. Oh, I think I have to reinstall it. Um, let's see if I can do this.
We might not have time for that with just 2 minutes.
There we go. Notice it's got like a new chat. Um,
Oh,
where did it go?
Oh,
Right, it's got like a chat. There was a new chat button. I don't know what I just did to make it go away, but I don't know if Slack's doing any like stuff under the hood with context of like giving it access to those past chats or whatever. I
mm,
don't, I'm not sure if anything would actually conflict with
That's
Mastra.
also something that we could bake in as a tool call to your specific agent that you've added in. You can have a Slack tool call that can read messages. Then you can specify that in your request and it goes out and
mm.
reads more, gathers context as it needs it.
Yeah, you can see it's got like a history with a new chat. So it feels more like ChatGPT, but it's in Slack. So I think we might turn that on as default when you create one with Mastra Cloud. Otherwise, I
Yeah.
think you do it via manifest when you create the app.
Brilliant. Ryan, thank you so much for joining us and giving us some insight into how this feature was built in Master and answering questions. And Grayson, thank you very much for all your effort to prepare these cohesive and complete demos. I'm sure people are going to really appreciate access to the source code and the recording. And thank you everyone for tuning in, whether that's here on Zoom or on YouTube or on X or somewhere like that. Maybe you're watching the recording, in which case you can leave a comment and let us know what you think. You can always build these features yourself by following Grayson's guidance and using the Slack API directly. If that's the right thing for you and your application, you should absolutely do that. That's how you get the most control. If you just want to flick a switch and have access to your existing master agent in Slack, you can do that via cloud as well, provided you are on the list. This is an early feature we're releasing for preview. And if you're here on the stream, we'd love to share access with you. Maybe we can pull up a link, Grayson, and share it with folks. If you put your email in, we can grant you access to that feature and you could connect your first master agent to Slack today.
Yeah, I've got that link right here. I will put it in the chat
Nice.
to everyone.
So there you go.
It's a very fancy Google form. but it gets the job done. So if you do that, we'll add you to the feature flag.
We're gonna end the stream in just a moment here, so make sure you grab that link if you are keen. Otherwise, you might not be able to see it once the stream ends. How much longer is this feature going to be in a sort of preview stage? Like, will it become available to everybody at some point in the near future? Do you know?
Yeah, we got our first bug report the other day and fixed that, and then we also got
Nice.
our first kind of feature request. So we want to gather that, I don't know, maybe through the end of the year or something. That'd be a
Okay.
good way to kick off the year, turn it on for everyone. I mean, there's so many things. I mean, we probably aren't going to build in where you can config everything from the Mastra Cloud UI that you can do in Slack because you see how powerful it is. But we just give you that link to the Slack API interface, and you can tweak your agent from there as well. So we'll do some smart defaults, expose a few more things, and um, see what people want to do with it.
Right on. And in the meantime, fill in that form, get access before everybody else. And yes, thank you again for tuning in. We'll see you next Thursday. We're here next Thursday and the Thursday after, but not Christmas Eve, unfortunately. Uh, Next week, we're going to be looking at some stuff to do with agent tool call approval. So keep an eye out on the Mastra website for the latest link, or check your inbox. You're likely to receive an email inviting you to that event if you came to this one. Until next time, we'll see you then.